What's going on, guys? And we are back for another tech tip video with Bruce Sr. Today we're going to be touching on another thing that a lot of people have been asking me about, and that is studs. What should they get? How long should they get? You know, what would help with this? What would help with that? How do I know how many studs I need? How, you know, any question that you could potentially have about studs, we're going to be talking about them today. And we're going to be talking about Woody's in general. Woody's brand is a big supporter of Bruce. They've been partnered up for a very, very long time. I'm excited to jump on board with that and use their products this year. And Bruce is going to be going through pretty much everything that they have, that we have available to us right at this moment. We have studs to show you. We have everything that we need to know. So Bruce is going to take it from here and kind of tell everyone, you know, what they have to offer.
Okay, so we talked a lot about setup before with, you know, where your weight is and springs and all that other thing. And I did mention in there that it doesn't much matter what you do if you don't have traction or steering control, you're not going to steer. So this is basically a touch base on studs and carbide. So traction and control, that's the main thing, you know, and it's you know, I have probably studs 75% of the sleds that I sell.
It's not always for performance.
No, it's safety. Yes, will it give you more launch? Sure it does, but it also lets you stop. And everybody's got to stop one time or another.
Right. And it gets you up that icy hill, safe and sound. It gets you stopped on the, yeah.
Yep. If you're going to put a lot of carbide on the front, it's your tail's going to get loose. The more your front end is stuck, the tail's going to want to come around. It's no different than a car on blacktop. The more steering you got, the tail's going to get loose. The more bite you got in the rear, because I'm going to say that too. If you go and decide, okay, this is what I'm doing for studs, you do kind of have to think about what you're doing for carbide, because now you got so much bite in the back, you got to be able to turn. So you got to coincide with what you're doing there with the amount of studs. So as far as length of studs to track, because, you know, obviously we've got all these options of length, of height of track now and length of track. But no matter what the height of track is, when I'm studding a sled, basically the number I'm looking for is I want that stud to be 3/8 of an inch out of the rubber lug. That's what I'm looking for. You can be 1/2 inch out, you could be 5/8 of an inch out. But the problem is with all that bite, when you're on the trail, you got more chance for tear out. Because on the trail, again, you're crossing blacktop, dirt spot in the trail, you know, frozen ground is the enemy of all. I mean, we could stud this stuff up and go in October and go grass dragging and never tear a stud out of a sled, never. You freeze that ground and you go out with those studs and you try to do the same thing, you will rip everything out of the track, because it is... it's going to bite. It's going to bite and it won't let go. So so frozen ground, you see it in the trail, you should let off and roll over it, get back on the gas. You know, just to basically, you got to be thinking about your studs. So 3/8 out is what I'm looking for. It gives plenty of depth and, you know, plenty of traction. And that's what Woody's is making all these 3 different sizes for. You got this stud here, which is the 1.325 stud. That was for 1 1/4 inch track. So that stud works well on the old Ripsaw 2. That was what were 1 1/4 inch. So you put 96 of those in a track that's from 121 to 129 long, and it makes a huge difference. When you go to a Cobra track, a 1.352 track, now you go to a 1.450 stud. So again, you need that little bit longer stud because the track is longer, the track is taller. You go to a Storm track, which is a 1.5 inch track, or a 1.6 Cobra, which was on a lot of things that we had been talking about with the assaults and that. They make a 1.575. I know the number sounds kind of weird there because you got an 1.5 inch or a 1.6 track and you're only using a 1.575 stud, but the math does work out. Some of them are a whisker under 3/8 or 3/8 out. Usually whatever we do or what Woody's are recommending is they're not more than 3/8 of an inch out, unless somebody wants to do that. And again, that's different territory when you do that, because it's more stud penetration, it's more chance of pull out, The other thing is you know, you do have tunnel protection under these sleds, and that tunnel protection is set. When the track hits that tunnel protector, the stud needs to have clearance so it doesn't hit your tunnel. You start sticking your studs way out, and you got a lot of track whip, you know, you're doing 90 miles an hour, and you got a lot of track whip under there. Now you might be getting some scratching. You know, heat exchangers on these are on the outside. That's the other thing, is we are always studding in between the high packs. I never stud on the outside of the high packs anymore. And that is where the heat exchanger is. So if you are on the outside and you have an issue, you are full length of tunnel,
tearing it up.
Yeah, of tunnel extrusion. So we are always in the center, in between the high packs. So, but nonetheless, even if you're running, some people will put a size extra or two on their sled because they want more traction, especially if they're on ice. Ice, you know, just running on the lake. It does give you more traction, but you do have to think about the other aspects of it. And then the one last stud, the tall one, that's what we use for an 1 3/4 track. That's a 1.860 stud. It gives you the right penetration for that track. And you know, when you start getting out to these lengths, there's a lot of leverage there. So when you got that in the track, you know, and usually we're doing a single plate like this or a double plate like this. This alone here, this takes a lot of pressure before this will flex the track. But when it's doing it, if it's going to flex, it'll rip it out. So that's why I say frozen dirt is an enemy. Blacktop, you want to roll across that stuff, because if you're under power, you have a chance of tearing things up. So we split it up. Sometimes we're using singles, sometimes we're using doubles, sometimes we're using both. It's this sled right here. We just studded this one, and this one is 2 double diggers in every other band. So if you put, this is a 128 sled, so it's 51 patches. So basically 102 studs if you went 2 in every slot. This is like having 2 in every slot because we're putting 4 in every other. Right. So the reason why I did this is some of the guys, this guy included, he's a real aggressive rider, but he likes to slide the sled. So he wants to be able to go in the corner and kick the tail to help him come out of the turn. With having the studs, an empty slot in every other, it does give you a nicer slide, a side slide. But as far as forward traction, you've still got that much stud on the ground, and it's going to go. It's just, it does make it a little nicer. You tap the brake, and it'll slide just a little bit for your come and go out of the turn. When you have stuff in every lug, it does, you know, and it's trying to do that. Is the idea, is gives you side bite so that you don't spin out, because obviously you want a controlled slide if that's what you want. Right. Other than that, if you don't want to slide, it won't. You know, you can stud it in every band, and it helps that not, so it doesn't slide out when you're on the brake. Because Woodies, one of the things they do is when they go to these bigger studs, is they have these taller nuts. Okay, this is what they call a low. It's a tall nut, but it's the lower one they make. When you come up from this, you start to go to a longer one. When you're on 1.575.
Yeah, there's 3/4, I think.
Yeah, right? Or 1.860. That nut is almost twice as long as that. Right. So it gives you a ton of support as far as this flexing, and it's not going to bend that stud. But again, the more you have strength like this, and now you have taller nuts because the studs are taller. Another reason why I'm saying frozen dirt, let off the throttle, get back on it when it turns white again, because they're not forgiving when they're stuck in dirt, frozen dirt. So, but as far as traction, forward traction and braking, can't beat it. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Yeah. So you can see here in this package, these are tall stud nuts.
Yeah, right there. Compared to that right there, which is what we were just looking at there. The 1.35, the 1.325, and the 1.450 both come with the smaller large nut. Whereas when you go to the 1.575 or 1.860, you have the long nut. Because the stud is longer, they're trying to protect it from bending.
Right. And then a lot of people are asking about, stud patterns. Well, yeah, here we go.
All kinds of that. So Woody's makes these here, and we're going to talk about track pitch for a minute. This here is set for a 2.86 pitch. So not what this XCR is. Because we talked before, XCR is 128 or 136. That is a 252 pitch. So the distance between these lugs is narrower than this one is. So this, anything with 2.86 pitch, whether it be 129, 137, 146, is going to have less lugs on the ground each time because there's just less lugs on the track. When you're talking about 128, 136, or 144, now we're dealing with 252. So to give you a comparison, this sled right here, which is a 128 on an XCR, this could be a 129 VR1. Snowmobile's the exact same length, tunnel's the exact same, rails are the exact same length. The only difference is the driver that's in it is driving the track and how many lugs are on the ground. So on a 129, you're dealing with 45 lugs on the track. So if you were putting 2 in every slot, you'd have 90 studs in this track. This snowmobile, a XCR, has 51 lugs. So right away, this snowmobile's the same length, same footprint, but you're gaining that many more patches from 45 to 51. So that gives you not only the ability to put more stud in it, but it also, there's more lugs on the ground.
More traction.
Every time, more traction. That's why they do that to an XCR. And the common sleds, the VR1s, the XCs, the Assaults, that stuff is the wider because the track is lighter. You know, they do look for performance and performance from a lightness, but when they want traction or they have something that's the aggressive riding sled, that's what Polaris goes to. So when you're looking at stud patterns, you have to make sure that you have the right pattern plate for the track that you have. Right. Because this 2.86, I could use this just as it says here, 120, 137. You could use this for 146. And they're showing you different ways that they would do it to calculate however many studs you want, doubles, singles, whatever. And Woody's does a great job with that. There's the setup right there that we have on this track underneath us right now is the 404. So it's so if you were doing it for this sled, you would need the pattern that says 2.52 pitch, and it would be a whole nother array of different options. And you just have different knockouts and use your pen marker and mark it before you drill it. So it's you know, again, traction, very important. Steering, very important. So you need to tie the two together. And like this snowmobile here with this is like 102 studs in this track. Proper length out, 3/8 of an inch out. Being an XCR this year, obviously it comes with 8-inch carbide like we talked about. It comes with 8-inch round bar carbide because that's what Polaris uses out of the factory. So that's what you would want to use. You'd be wanting to use 6 or 8 inches of carbide, pushing it with that many studs. And then whether you want to go to ace next time so you have more rudder, you're sure. I mean, you're not gonna be oversteering when you have that kind of traction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that really breaks down, you know, Woody's options and stud length and patterns and track pitch and really everything that we could think of to give you guys as much knowledge to make, you know, an educated decision to what you guys are going to put in your sled for this upcoming season. So if you haven't gotten your sled, look on Woody's, you know, online, check out what they have, watch the video once or twice and learn everything that we had to say and, you know, make your choice and go from there and have your parts ready and waiting for you when the sled comes in. So,
and don't forget, we did talk about tunnel protection. Anything you're studying, make sure you put tunnel protection.
Right. Tunnel protection is.
Yeah. The aluminum bar right here, it is bolted into the tunnel in between the extrusion, and that, don't forget, you know, that goes with it no matter what. You have to have it.
Key. So, but that is going to do it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, as always, put them in the comments. I will get back to you. If I can't answer it, Bruce will give me an answer. But make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.